back, you beautiful people, to the remote edition of the Real Collective Podcast. Sean and Kyle both coming at you from completely different locations. I am sitting on a couch that is probably older than both of us combined. Kyle, how are you doing today?
Oh, living the dream as usual. Looking at that couch going, I don't know if I think you were left out if your grandma didn't have that couch. 100%.
Pretty sure these are pheasants, so who
Yeah,
knows?
popular animal in the 70s and 80s.
Yep,
Pheasants, they just
yep.
decorated everything.
Just pheasants everywhere.
Pheasants everywhere.
Decorated the dining room table at Thanksgiving. As always, if you like what you're hearing, if you want to, be a part of this conversation, you can get into the comments below and tell us what you're thinking. You can download on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. You can like, subscribe, and share the video with anybody who you think might be interested in what we're talking about today. I haven't even told you what we're talking about today, so you can't do any of that. Today, we're going to talk about planning, the setup, right? You plan, what was the saying you had? You fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Someone smarter than me said that once, but that's the first thing that came to mind. Was failing to plan is planning to fail. So
It's
rock and roll.
it's all about the setup, absolutely, right? And setting yourself up for success. Maybe that's what we'll call the episode. Set yourself up for success. You can also download, speaking of success, you can download the buyer guide below. You can download the seller guide below. You can also schedule an appointment directly with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. You've got a few different things you're working on right now that are leading you in the wrong, not necessarily leading you in the wrong direction, but just the setup wasn't there, and now you're scrambling at the last minute.
Yeah, and I don't want to make it sound like we didn't prepare or the clients. It's just it's the overarching theme that I've seen in the last couple of weeks because I've gotten super busy, which is great, is just the fact that people are jumping into the home ownership stuff, but and I don't say that they aren't ready, but they haven't planned out the process necessarily, or they're forcing things to happen, which is just unpleasant for everybody, right? Like I have someone I'm working with who we've been speaking for a long time, like not a year, but 6, 7 months. And the beginning stages where make sure you've got your separation agreement signed. And here I come in with an offer and the separation agreement's not signed, and we're trying to close in less than 20 days. It's like, dude, like that was the thing. That was the one thing I said, make sure you get.
Yeah.
And oh, it's coming. It may not, like you're not ready. You're forcing something that's it's not ready. A couple of other people too, right? We've got someone who's out of country, someone who's in country trying to buy, but they haven't sold. They bought before they even listed. Again, not the end of the world, but to sit there and say, hey, Kyle, I need to know for sure we're 100% going to get this house. Have you 100% sold your other house? Well, no. Then okay, what now we have to look at what if it doesn't sell, right?
Yeah.
What are the options? How do we carry both houses? How do we make sure this house you don't lose this one, right? The preparation work needs to be done, and we've been working with them for a while too. It just gets gets like real when you have an offer in, right? So it's prepping like that. So that's the and even other ones where no, I've said it before. No offense to real estate agents in general, you guys are not like master negotiators. So if you show up on the final day, well, to this degree, you show up on the final day of closing with a $50,000 price drop. That's probably not because you're a magician. It's most likely because you found deficiencies. I would think. Maybe you tell me wrong and we argue about it, but it's most likely deficiencies that now that's a red flag to the bank.
Right.
And now we have to fix that, which we can fix. There's probably something we can do, but we need to have the conversation of how are you going to fix this? Because the bank needs to know how that's going to work, right?
Right.
And what is it? How do we fix it? How much do we have to tell? How much do we don't have to tell? That stuff. So that is all this prep work that's happening in and around everything else that you really need to be aware of to know to try to make it go smooth and to make sure it's going to work at the end.
I
Sorry,
consider
tangent.
No, that's okay. I consider all of that to be the setup, right? Is like setting up your clients for success, setting up the bank for success, and all of that comes with experience, right? oh
Yeah.
snap, I put this deal together and I said I want you to do XYZ because I want it in writing on the APS, the writing to say, hey, fix this, fix this, fix this. And then all of a sudden the bank goes through and says, well, wait a sec. If you're fixing these things, we want to know that they're fixed. And if they're not fixed, we've got a problem with lending on the property. You know, $50,000 price reduction probably means $100,000 issue to be resolved, which sounds like septic and foundation and well, or something along those lines, right? You know, we've negotiated significant amounts of money off after the fact because you kind of, when you're repping a buyer and you're competing against someone who is, you know, on the selling side, you kind of have them. You know what I mean? Like if you're conditionally sold, what are they going to do? Say no to your $5,000 or $10,000 reduction and put it back on the market, right?
Yeah, like 5 or 10 grand's one thing, right? That's paint, that's some flooring, that's in general. That's
Yeah,
that's
but
where my head goes.
right, but the problem is the argument is if you had a home inspection and you're going through and you're doing your due diligence and you saw the paint, you saw the carpet when you offered. So you're not changing the price for something that's visible. You're normally changing the price for something that's
Mm,
only, you know, found by an inspector. And if there's something that's found by an
true.
inspector, it's a major concern, right? So what we've done in the past is we have said, okay, here's what we're going to put on the amendment. Seller agrees to this lower price and change the closing date or whatever the other little bit is. And then it's like, hey, seller, sign this, and then we'll send the NOF, the notice of fulfillment. And then on an email, in the body of the email, not in the contents of the amendment, hey, this is the price reduction, and you also agree to do X, Y, and Z. That way it's in writing, and you're setting it up so that the bank isn't asking a question down the road, right? Probably not the best thing to do. Maybe I'm giving poor advice, but it's the way around. It's in writing. Everything's documented there, right? But again, we're not normally asking you to do something crazy.
Yeah, and I think that depends on what it is. If you're swapping out light switches, fixing a fan, like things that are important to the buyer, but don't really impede the value of the house,
Yeah,
that's one thing.
yeah,
If you're but because that also, like, if the seller didn't do that and you're at the closing table, right? Like that's a different piece of, whatever litigation that can happen,
yeah,
but the deal can still potentially go through. If you've got to replace a septic, right? Like that needs to be there because the way this is the thought the bank always has is, it sounds terrible, but it's like, you're going to buy this house and you're either going to stop paying us or die the same day you get the keys.
right,
Like that's what's going to happen. Now this is our problem, speaking from the bank's perspective.
right,
And if we can't sell this house in 30, 60, 90 days and get all our money back, we don't want to do this at all.
right.
So for sure, we need to know what the problems are. It's not that we won't do the deal, but we need to know how it's being fixed for our investment now. Like that's the way they think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So they'll work with us on just about anything. It's we just have to structure it and need to know what that plan is going to look like to do that. And that's part of that prep work and working with the right people to figure out how we're going to do this, you
yeah.
know?
Well, yeah, and that's about the setup. I mean, I've done it in the past where it's like, you know, there's a small hairline crack in the foundation, and the solution suggested by, you know, a foundation expert isn't, no, you don't have to dig all the way around the outside. You just need to do an epoxy injection from the inside. I wouldn't put that in an amendment. I would make sure that it gets done. I would have it in the body of an email. I would have all the changes made. But it's like, again, it's the setup, right? You're setting up your clients, and you're also setting up your, you don't want to give the bank a reason to say no, right? You want to make it so that everybody's like, yeah, this is cool. We're okay to move forward with it. You know, the other thing that we do is when we set up our sellers for like, here's the real fair market value for your house. You know, we set up the buyers, hey, if you're negotiating, here's probably what you're going to be able to buy the house for. And a lot of the times the setup is we're telling our sellers, hey, you're probably going to get less than you want. And we're telling our buyers, hey, you're probably going to have to pay more than you want. So that, we did a deal this week where I really truly believe that the fair market value lived somewhere between 510 and 535. Right? We put the house on the market for 500 because it was tenant occupied. They needed it to close by September 12th, and they needed vacant possession. And right now we're shooting this video. It's the 27th.
7.
Yeah. So 27th, which means that it needed to get firm before the end of this week so that the owner could serve notice to the tenants and say, here's your 60 days, right? Because he needed to close beginning of September. So we said, look, the only way to do this that you can guarantee you're going to have a fast sale is to underlist your house. And we'd said, hey, look, it's probably worth somewhere between 510 to 535, give or take, somewhere in the 5.25 range. The most recent comp sold for 550 across the street, looked better, and the market was better. This is summer market. It's a little bit slower right now. And so the seller said, okay, so what can we price it at? Can it be 525? No. Okay, what about 510? No. Okay, what do we have to price it at? You have to price it at 500. What about 505? No. Right? And the seller was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. We'll listen to you. And so we did. We priced it at 500, put it on the market. We said offers on Friday. Today's Thursday. We sold it 2 days ago. 24 hours on the market and for 540. Unconditional. So, it still works on the right place if your setup is right. A lot of people would have gone in and listed that house at the same price as the house across the street sold for, 549.9, right? But it didn't show as well as the house across the street. We went in, we sent a cleaner in. They spent 8 hours there scrubbing it all, making sure all this stuff. The tenants were gone for the week, so it was really easy to set up the showings. Like a lot of things lined up well, but it was all the strategies and all the systems that we put in place. Anyways, the point is, it was about the setup, right? The setup made it so that, yes, okay, our clients were able to get more. The other part of the setup was, hey, here's what real market value is. And then they wound up with a price point that was much better than what they expected. So, that's part of the setup too on the seller side. The other one is on the buyer side, is setting expectations. Like, this house just came out yesterday. They're not holding offers. It's priced at $1 million, 999, whatever. Your offer, oh, hey, what do you think? We can offer 900? No, you're going to offer 980 and you're going to wind up at 990. Oh, well, we don't want to do that. We want to offer 970. Okay, fine. Offer 970 and wind up at 985. Hey, this is great. You said we were going to wind up at 990. We wound up at 985. Great, right? But it's not like, oh, hey, offer 900 and see if we can get to 950, right? Because it's 2 days on the market. They're not dropping 50 grand off their price, So it's about understanding the dynamics and setting your clients up for success. I think is the point during the negotiation phase, and then during the conditional period, it's a whole other setup, right?
Yeah, and it is setting up the clients as well to respect and know their limitations, right? Like I have a client now, they're going in for a price reduction because they found out septic shots. It's original 70 years old. Like, it has to be done. A few other minor things in the house, but that's the thing. And that's most likely going to come out. I don't know how it's going to look yet. I don't know how they're writing the amendment. I don't know what they're doing. I just know if that's the problem, the next questions were, okay, but what are we going to do to fix it?
Yeah.
Right. Now, these guys have lots of money down. We're over 20%. They have access to resources with some family that can help out to get it done. And then we'll figure out how to do that. It's going to happen. But that's a different conversation when someone has scraped together 5% down to put that in there. Because now it's like, okay, this for sure is coming out. This for sure has to get done. There's no hiding this. There's no trying to hide this. It has to be done because you as the homeowner need it done. And at 5% down, you can't refi to pay yourself back. Right. So where are we going with this? Or you have to walk away from this house because you don't have the means or can't afford to do this, right? Like, we can purchase plus improvements, all that kind of stuff, sure. But you still need money to get this done. So how are we doing that? Or this might not be the right place for you right now. And like, we have to have those shitty conversations, but that's the understand. It's even as the finance people, as the as the salesperson, you guys, we need to know to be able to have those conversations to be like this just isn't going to work at the end of the day for some.
What if you get the seller to pay for it? Would that fly?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a different avenue, right?
So
Is yep, seller pay for it, and then all we have to do is prove that it's done.
so what if the seller pays for it and they agree to a higher price for a purchase?
As long as, again, that's fine as long as the client can
Afford the
get
down.
qualified for it, right?
Yeah,
Down payment, closing costs, everything's going up.
yeah. Okay. Well,
But that's part of those conversations, right? Like we're just finding solutions. So
yeah,
that's what we do.
absolutely. So we'll take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors. I want to talk more about the setup about during the conditional period, because I think that's, not just during the negotiations, but during the conditional period is really important. So we'll have a quick word from our sponsors, great people over at RCM. And we'll get you back on the flip side. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends. You can also download on Spotify or iTunes, book an appointment with Kyle or I in the calendar links below. Download the buyer or seller guides. And I think that's all the housekeeping. So we'll catch you soon. This episode of the Real Collective Podcast is brought to you by Real Collective Marketing, the marketing agency that specializes in the unique needs and budgets of small to medium-sized businesses. We provide turnkey marketing solutions that get results. We become an extension of your team and act as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective strategies that will help grow your business. You can find out more today at www.realcollectivemarketing.ca. Now, here's your hosts, Sean and Kyle. Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the second half of the Real Collective Podcast, where I makeshifted a light lamp out of a tall light and pointed at my face. I look like I'm being interrogated. It is cottage day. We are, into the big time summer, but still putting out content, still doing the podcast. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might be interested in this conversation about the setup. You can also book an appointment with Kyle or I in the calendar links below. Download the buyer or seller guides, and that's it. I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. Cool. So we started talking a little bit about the setup. One of the other pieces that I always set our buyer clients up for right before we go into doing the inspection is this is my script. It's a line I use all the time. I teach it to the agents on the team. I think it's really important, and it's not a script to gotcha. It's a script because it's true, right? We found this out over years and years, over how many transactions we've done. So this is how it goes. Every single house that we look at, on average, between 1% and 3% of the purchase price of the home is going to be required for regular repairs and maintenance. Over and above cosmetic stuff that you would have found during your viewing of the home, whether you want to paint, replace the carpets, replace the floors, do the kitchen, do the bathroom, that's all cosmetic stuff. But every home inspection is going to reveal little maintenance things that need to happen. Caulking, grading, little piddly things here and there. It's expected. Even a brand new house is going to need something. Eaves troughs, a fence to go up, more exterior work, whatever, right? Further grading, even for a brand new house, whatever it might be. What we're really looking for in the inspection is major issues: structural, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, so HVAC sort of thing. And yeah, the roof, you can even tell the age of the windows, you can tell the age of the roof normally. All of that stuff is all visible during your inspection. You can normally see cracks. If there's cracks in the foundation, you can normally see that on your visit. All that stuff is stuff that you can tell. You're looking for major problems with the house. And if you're buying a house that's between, let's say the average price of a house is 600 grand, give or take, you're buying a house, you can expect between $6,000 and $18,000 of repairs and renovations to do. What are you going to find in a home inspection that's going to be beyond that? It's going to have to be big, significant, right? And that seems to be a really great way to set people up so that they're not I've had in the past before I said that I would have people come with a laundry list of like, oh well, this outlet cover needs to be changed. The GFCI is tripped. Little things that add up to this big laundry list. But when you really break it down, you're talking like 500 to $1,000. And you're like, well, that's way less than 1 to 3% of the price of the house. What do you expect? I mean, we can ask, right? And that's the second part of the setup is, hey, we can go and ask. I don't expect them to. If I was representing the seller, I'd say no, take the house. It's fine. You're nickel and diming on. You're buying a $600,000 house and you're telling me about a 500 or $1,000 or $2,000 worth of stuff that you want. Because if you find $1,000 worth of stuff and you do negotiate it, it's normally the case that you get half of that price, right? So you find $1,000 worth of stuff, you just spent $600,000 and you want to ask for 1,000 to get 500 back off the price. Come on, right? Like, do the things. You're welcome to being a homeowner. These are things are gonna happen.
Yeah. I always joke with clients. I'm like, if I sneeze in my house, it costs me $5,000.
Right.
So I try to sneeze outside as much as I can.
Just don't sneeze.
Yeah, just don't sneeze. Yeah, just don't be allergic. It's the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think that, again, coming back to that setup, that's also where understanding, like, I know I preach it a lot because that's what I do, but understanding numbers and understanding the products that are available can make the transactions better. Like, do you need to fight over things if you know that you can do it on a purchase plus improvement?
Right.
Right. Should you switch and fight for something because you know you can't refinance past 80% loan to value? So yeah, that needs to be done now because I won't be able to get to this for another 5 to 7 years.
Right.
Because of the way refinancing works and all that kind of stuff. Right. Having that knowledge and understanding that, I think allows you to be a smarter consumer. It allows you to be a better agent, allows you to be a better mortgage agent because you're just solving problems, create and giving people tools to negotiate with, to not lose deals over, to have that knowledge to make it work. Right. So that is all in the setup and all in the education of how do we get this? How do we fix this? How do we work with this? And again, I think that's also too of like, I try to put myself in different shoes, but it's like, if I'm selling the house, I know we have to get this deal done. But if they come to me and say, hey, we still want to do this, but we need 2 more days because we're trying to fix this little issue, do I care? Like, no. Okay, I'll give you the 2 days, right? Yeah. Just get that issue fixed.
Yeah.
And whatever the issue is, right? Because we're trying to get a quote. We need time to make sure we can fix this problem with the mortgage and
Yeah.
So just do that, right? When you understand that stuff.
Yeah. As opposed to say, no way, if you haven't figured yourself out, sellers, if you're that far invested and you've been conditional for 7 days, you've already been off the market. What are you going to put it back on the market? Hope that someone else is going to come along? What do you think? They're going to buy it for as much as those people already bought it for? No way. They're going to try and get it for less because they saw that you've been through it and now you're getting desperate. So give them the extra 2 days. It's not going to really have an impact. Maybe you're sold and hey, that's great. Maybe you're not, right? If you're not sold, it's like, what's the risk versus what's the reward? I had a client recently tell me, he's like, hey, you know what? Sean, you helped me buy my house. It was whatever it was, 1.1 or $1.2 million. And now I'm interested in looking at another house in the same sort of price range. My house has gone up in value. It's worth more like, 2 or 2.5, or maybe even as high as 3 in some cases, if it's the, Jupiter aligns with Saturn or whatever it is. But he said, you're not a luxury property guy, but you're my guy. And the reason you're my guy is because I loved that I bought the house. And then after we did the inspection, you went back and you were willing to renegotiate. And so it's like, my first story was like, yeah, okay, expect that you're going to have that. But at the same time, it's like, just ask. We did another one recently where we were able to get $3,000 off just because we're better negotiators after the inspection for an older hot water tank. So the hot water tank needs to be replaced. We're going to replace it with a rental, but we said it's worth $1,500. And there was some other little odds and ends that we found that totaled $1,500. We said, hey, look, we'll go ahead with the deal, but you got to take three grand off the price. Again, if I'm the selling agent in that case, I'd say no, get yourself a rental, and $1,500 is well within, so stop it. Like you're not getting it, buy the house. And if my guy was told, no, I'm not giving you any money, go ahead and buy the house, he'd still buy the house. But we asked for it and they said yes. Right. And so it's like that there's it's fun. I like that part of the job, right?
And it's the understanding too, again, from like both sides of what it means, right? Like if outside looking in,
Yeah.
right? And you kind of just said it. You're like, guy's still gonna buy the house, but we're gonna ask anyways.
Yeah.
Right? It's the fact that it's in that essence, in that case, to me, it's just like, I want to feel like he gave me something. Right. I'm asking because I want you to give me something.
Yeah.
That $1,500 does nothing on the mortgage. Nothing. It's worth literally nothing. So it's not saving you money. That money is being spread out over 30 years, 25 years. It's saving you nothing. It's literally the win that you're going for, right? And that's okay. And like that's cool. And then but even on the other side, it's like it's the thought of how much is this $1,500 worth to me? Because it's 1,500 less that I'm going to get at closing.
Yes.
So I literally cash in my pocket.
Yeah.
So what's that worth to me? Is it worth, what do I want to do? Just say, fuck it. Yes, take it. Fine. And we're done. Or no, I want that money. Like it's a win thing. Like that's the interesting dynamic because it doesn't mean that much at the end of the day.
Buddy, it's all ego is really what it is.
It was said, stated, done. It was ego.
we are in an ego-driven career, right? Realtors, they want to win. I fucking love winning.
I love it.
Love winning. I love it. It makes me feel so good. And sometimes, and I've been called on this before by my clients, I've got to move my own ego out of the way to make sure that they can buy the house that they want to buy. I got to check myself on that. I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to say it. I know what it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's totally what it is. So, but I really like winning. But the thing is, if it means that my clients get to save an extra little bit of money, or if they're selling, and man, that 540 deal that I was telling you about before, the guy who bought it, he first bid 515. Another offer showed up. He bumped up to 530. Or no, he first bid 515. We said, no, thank you. Come back with something better. Bumped up to 530. Another offer came in. It was lower than his, and he bumped himself up to 540. So it's like he bumped himself up twice. And again, it's all in the setup, right? What do you say? What do you say? What do you not say? This is the thing that made COVID, all the prices go crazy, is realtors just be like, do what you got to do. And people are like, I don't want to lose the house. I'll give you more. I'll give you more. I'll give you more. And sometimes I had one person one time outbid the next closest bidder by $175,000 for a sale price of $1.3 million. Was that much higher than the second place bid and was ecstatic because they won the house. And what I said and what I didn't say made all the difference between what they were willing to pay. As a listing agent, sure, my ego is very much like, woo, I'm awesome. And in the eyes of my seller client, that's a huge difference for them. $175,000 means a lot of flexibility. So,
oh, for sure. That takes us down a different road though, too, because that starts off into a whole other podcast about how you like. I would love to know how that financing worked, right? Like, well, it's just if you're going 175 grand over list price. Now, back then, I know that happened a lot, but there's a lot of people that got stuck.
It was 300 grand over list price. It was 175 over the next closest bid.
Well, yeah. So from that, like even that, like that's like that has huge that could have huge implications. So to be Debbie Downer here, so as ecstatic as your seller could have been, that had all the makings to just go absolutely south because they couldn't get financing. It had all the makings, right? It happened. It worked great, but that has all the markings of as cool as this is. There's no fucking way this is going to close. That's because that's how I would look at it, right? Like if it does, it does. Great.
But who knew that the next closest offer was $175,000? There were 12 offers. Who knew that the next one was that far off? One person, sorry, two people. You know which two people? The listing agent and the seller. That's it. As far as the bank knew, as far as every other agent knew, there were 12 offers and it was listed for $1 million and it sold for 1.3. That's what everybody knew. That's it. And the rest of the information is nobody's business.
You couldn't do that in Tressa now with Tressa now, could you?
Yeah, you still can. The seller gets to choose whether they'd like to disclose the contents of the offers or not. I don't know why anybody
Right.
not to. Why or anybody would choose to. Why would you? If I disclose in that circumstance, if we like, oh yeah, hey, we want to disclose the contents of the offers, we're gonna tell the guy who overbid himself that the next best offer is 175K less. We're not seeing that money, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
It's an interesting.
buyers have the right to rescind their offer, right? It was always an irrevocable offer, but now with Tressa, if there's a clause in there that's written properly and you say, hey, if you choose to disclose the contents of your offer, I get to choose if I want to revoke my offer or not. It used to be this offer is irrevocable. Now there's a revocability clause in there. So it's a whole, like I said, you're right. It is a whole other podcast. It's all minutia that the agents who know what they're doing know about, and the agents who don't. And it might not happen often, but you definitely want to work with someone who knows how to stick handle it if you ever get there. That is, like you say, it's a whole other podcast. So
Yeah, we go down a weird road there.
yeah, well, that's what we do here. As
Right.
always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this conversation. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, watch us, not live, watch us at YouTube. You can also download the buyer or seller guides, and you can also do all of the other things. Calendly links below, link to the sponsor below if you're interested in getting some marketing done for your real estate business or any other business. There's the link right there. As always, until next time, keep it real.
Collective.